Today I'm going to take you through how to make a multi-class program and in the process demonstrate how methods work. We're going to create a simple two-class program, but it will demonstrate how more than one class can be used to create a program, and it will demonstrate object-oriented programming with the use of methods. Methods are the actions or the verbs of a class. Your variables are the nouns of a class. So the example I'm going to use to demonstrate this is the craps game that we created earlier in the year. I'm going to alter that a bit to make it a two-class program. All right, so the first thing, every two-class program or multi-class program that we make from here on out, one of the classes will be what's called a runner class. And you can see that right here. We got the craps runner and the craps game. The runner is going to be that class that has the main method. That's going to be the class that gets everything started. It's going to be the one that we right-click on and run because it has the main method. Let me show you what that looks like. They're going to be, your runner classes will be generally pretty sparse. So here's the elements of a runner class. Class header, very similar to what we've done in the past. Our main method. So this will be the only main method in our program. And then we're going to put a little something in the main method that's going to call the other class. But before we do that, we have to build the other class first, or we'll get an error when we do that. So, alright, so our craps game class will start out looking like this. We're going to have a import Java util because we're going to use the scanner class in here. We have our class header, craps game. You notice our runner header was craps runner. And this is the first time you're seeing class variables. Okay? Before we just declared all our variables inside the main method. Here you are declaring them right under the class header, kind of out on their own there in the class. So these are going to be class-wide variables. We'll go into that a little more when we talk about scope. But for right now, just know that these variables can be used throughout the class in all the methods because they are class variables. So we're creating a variable, two variables of type integer, die1, die2, to keep track of our dice. We have our scanner object, and we have a string that we're just calling user IO right now. And I'll show you how we'll use that in a second. Alright, so here's another little difference here between what we've been doing before. So this class is not going to have a main method. Instead, it has what's called a constructor method. And a constructor method is easy to identify because it has the same name as the class name. So it's public, and then the class name, open close parentheses, that's how you know you got a method here, okay? And open close brackets. And we're going to put some things inside this constructor method. Let me delete this and I'll kind of back up here and show you what we got inside here. So we're going to put system out in here. Alright, so the constructor, the use of the constructor is similar to a main method. It's kind of like the main method for this class in that it gets things rolling for this class. When you call this class, the constructor method is called. And so what you should put inside your constructor method should be things that need to be initiated when you call this class. So this happens to be a craps game, so it needs to call everything that's needed to start the craps game. So we're going to print out to the screen, hello, welcome to the craps game. And you initialize all your class variables inside your constructor. That's protocol. So we're going to initialize our scanner object, and you set initial values for your class variables. So even though they're not set yet to any random number, we just set them to 0 just to have them set. And then we're going to ask the user to type R to roll. And here we're going to use our user IO string variable to keep track of what the user input is. In this case, we're not even going to check for it to really be anything we're asking them to put in R, but no matter what they put in, we're just going to go ahead and get on with the game. And so now here's where some object-oriented programming logic comes in. This should read just like English. What would happen in a craps game? Well, you would roll the dice. That's how you started, right? And in this simple game that we have going on, really only two things happen. We roll the dice, and then we analyze the roll. Well, we're going to work more on this game later in the week. But for right now, that's pretty much all we're doing. Okay, so we're calling two methods, roll dice and analyze roll. These are custom methods that we're going to create. And this is what roll dice would look like. So it's a public method. It is void. And basically void means that it doesn't return any value. So it's void. And it has the title roll dice. It's very descriptive of what it actually does. The returning value thing we'll get into a little more detail in the next lesson. But for right now, just know that this does not return a value. And you have assigning a value to die 1 and die 2, a random number between 1 and 6, and then we print out to the screen to let the user know what those values are. Alright, next, called in the constructor is analyze roll, and that looks just like this. Int num equals die 1 plus die 2, and then we have our three different scenarios. And then you either lose, you can lose if it's a 2, a 3, or a 12. You win if it's a 7 or 11. And if it's anything else, we roll again. One last thing I do want to show you is how we actually create an object for this class. So we go back to our runner method, we go back to our runner class. The way that we get this thing rolling is we have to create an object of the craps game class. So how you do that? You create an object of type craps game. We'll name it CG, just short for craps game. Equals new. Remember when I said earlier, anytime you see new, you know that you're creating an object of some sort. And craps game, open close parentheses. And what this actually basically does is it creates this object, CG, and what's going on this side is this, and this happens in every time you create an object, this is calling the constructor method basically. So craps game constructor method gets called. So when we run this, all that happens is it calls this class and goes right to the constructor method and starts doing everything in here. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like. File, run, type R. There you go. Double fours.